welcome to the FrenchEntrée YouTube channel. My name is Zoe, and I'm delighted today to be joined by an American couple, Gordon and Deb, who are going to be sharing their personal experiences of buying a French property and moving to France. Gordon and Deb have been working with our partners at French Connections HCB, who are relocation specialists that help property buyers and expats with all of the behind-the-scenes details. So hi, Deb. Hi, Gordon. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Zoe.
Hi there.
Hi. So to start with, would you like to just introduce yourselves a little bit and tell me about your situation regarding buying and moving to France?
Sure. We are a couple who loves France. We visited France a number of times as just vacationers. And during the pandemic, we decided that we really wanted to spend a lot more time in France. And that included having a home there, a second home there. And so we contacted French Connections HCB to help us find a house originally. We looked at a number of properties to buy that we're ready to move into. But Richard showed us the property we ended up with, which had been empty for quite a number of years. And then he was able to renovate that to our specifications. And in May of 2022, we were able to move in. And it was wonderful. So it's been a great experience at a lovely smaller town for us to get to really be part of the community.
Brilliant. And so why did you choose to work with a relocation specialist like French Connections HCB? What particular aspects did you feel that you needed help with? Well,
everything.
Good answer.
Yeah, it's, trying to look at property sites just by ourselves online is a daunting task. There's so much out there, and it's hard to connect. And I think a lot of times agents in France don't think that Americans are serious about wanting to really buy a house. So they probably think we're just like to look. So we wanted to be more direct and, make some forward progress. So we thought it'd be best to have someone help us.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's not as easy for us to get there or to stay for extended periods. And so we wanted to sort of optimize the time that we had to look for houses. So French Connections was able to set up, probably 8 or 10 properties, some of which we had found, some of which they found for us. And they were able to set up visits for those. And we were able to make very efficient use of our time.
Yeah, brilliant. And so were you already homeowners in the US before?
Yes.
Yeah. So what did you find were the main differences between buying in France and then buying in and having already bought in the US?
Well, the entire process is actually quite different. In the US, you typically have a real estate agent, property agent, I think they're called in France. But you have a representative for the buyer and the seller. And then they sort of work out all the details for you. But in France, of course, you have mainly the seller is represented. Sometimes the buyer can be represented. And then you have the notaire, which is not something we have in the U.S. at all.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting, as we've talked to others about it, I sort of describe the notaire as a combination lawyer title company that we have in the U.S. that researches, who the owners were and make sure you have a clear title of the property. And then also a tax collector. Yeah. And so they serve multiple functions, none of which we have. I mean, we have the title company here, but that's really about it. We don't have a comparable function in the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are quite a few differences. I suppose that's why it's so useful having someone on your side that knows the system and knows what they're doing.
And the language differences too. I mean, we both speak enough French to, get along just in our town and everything, but trying to do legal French would probably be comfortable with.
Well, on top of that, I'll add one thing, for the Americans, we're used to having a system called the multi-list, which lists every property for sale, regardless of the listing agent. Right. They're all listed on one site. Different companies rebrand it for their own, but it's essentially one master database of all the properties in a given area that are available for sale. There's no such thing like that in France. So every morning I would go through probably 3 or 4 kind of consolidator sites that brought, not a comprehensive list, but a grouping of of properties together. Sometimes there are duplicates. Certainly there's plenty of properties that aren't on that. And then I would check, 3 or 4 different real estate agent sites trying to find what was available. So it can be very confusing when you're not in the area and able to drive around, which again, it's just much more difficult for us to get there. And it has to be planful.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice. So what's your situation right now? Have you actually moved to France? Are you living in France, or are you looking to move?
We are spending about half of each year there.
Okay.
We both are still working, and we work from France. We have great connectivity.
Oh, nice.
But we have, our house here. We're in Minnesota, so the middle of the U.S., and we still have grown children that we want to spend time with at the holidays. So kind of splitting our time. Yep. We would like to spend ideally 9 months in France and 3 months here. Yeah.
Well, that's nice. It's nice that you get to use it for both. So have you applied for a visa for that?
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
French Connections just with that as well.
Okay.
We actually have a long stay visa based on the work required, the work commitments that we have. Again, plus the holidays, we really haven't been able to kind of maximize that, but we spend as much time there as we can.
That's brilliant. And how did you find the whole visa application process?
Very easy, actually, with their help. There's information published online about the process. It sounds rather straightforward, but when you start to dig into it, there's a lot of nuance. And we were very nervous that because again, we had to travel from where we live in Minnesota to Chicago to apply for the visa. And the problem is, if you get there, you don't have the right paperwork, you haven't submitted the right things, you don't have the right documentation, you have to gather the documentation and come back. Well, again, that's an inconvenient at best, and certainly would have taken additional weeks to complete. So we had the confidence going in that we had everything in the folder that we needed, and that they would accept all of that, which they absolutely did. And it was very simple. And, with that advanced knowledge, we were able to really complete that process very quickly and efficiently. And the visa, they told us, might take several weeks to arrive, and I think it came within about 5 days.
Oh, brilliant.
Our passport, but the visa in there, it's wonderful. Yes.
Great. Well, that's really good to know. So is there anything that you found particularly difficult or challenging as an American buying in France, or living in France? Well, you're not living all year round, but spending a lot of time in France?
I don't really think so. I mean, moving to any small town anywhere in the world is, one never knows, right? We were talking about this the other evening, and you just never know how well you'll be accepted and that sort of thing. But we feel very lucky in that we have found a town that's very welcoming to us. We try to be outgoing. We try to meet people. We try to, we as Deb said, we speak enough French to have a conversation with people, and we try to reach out to them. So we found that nice. Things are not right or wrong. They're just different. So one of the things that we laugh about, but we struggled with is, making sure we have the right bins available for our house. They seem to disappear from time to time. We don't know why, but they'll show up again later. And it's just one of those, one of the odd things that happens. And, I think if you approach the whole experience with the sense of adventure, which we try to do, and sort of say, well, that's the way it's done here in France. And so, that's the way we need to be doing it, and not, sort of say, well, we don't do that like that where I come from, then I think it actually works out very well, and you have an adventure along the way.
I think that's a lovely attitude. And you're absolutely right. It's not right or wrong, but it is often different. And I think anyone moving, comes into contact with things like that, where we're not quite sure what the local practice is. So on that note, what advice would you give to somebody in a similar position, someone that's hoping to either buy a property in France or perhaps move to France?
I was going to say, find someone to help you. Yeah, just make things a lot easier, more enjoyable, and
more stress-free. I mean, again, there's information out there. The internet's full of advice, right or wrong. Much of it not right. Understanding, find someone who can help you we obviously have a great affinity for French Connections, having used them for so many different services. But finding somebody who can help you, that you understand what services they're offering and that you think they're a good value. We had looked at another service that was significantly more expensive for doing significantly less for us. And so we're glad that we landed where we did. It can be very confusing. Language barrier, and things are just different, as we said. And so, you can't make assumptions. And if you do, you're liable to be very disappointed. French administration is notorious, and it's correct, for being difficult and very opaque. And so, understanding how the process works and getting someone who speaks the language, who understands the system, and can explain it to you and help you through it is really essential.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Gordon and Deb. Thanks so much for talking to me today. And I wish you all the best of luck with your property in France. And maybe we'll get to catch up again sometime in the future.
We're leaving in a few hours to return to France.
Oh, wonderful. Well, have a great trip.
Thank you.